Hello and welcome to Readings from Ghosts, Ghouls, and Other Horrors, Episode 3, The Skull of Burton Agnes Hall. Burton Agnes Hall is one of the stateliest haunted houses in England. Located in a picturesque little Yorkshire village, it is steeped in a tradition of tragedy and horror. Although the property on which the mansion stands had been held by a powerful family since the early 1300s, the hall was not built until the time of Queen Elizabeth I. At that time, the estate belonged to three sisters. The house in which they lived, though certainly large enough, was old-fashioned and in some sections quite dilapidated. The youngest sister, Anne, decided one day that the house was simply too inadequate for such an important family, and she persuaded her sisters that they must erect a mansion so splendid as to outshine everything in the vicinity. The most celebrated architects, artisans, and craftsmen of the day were called in, and in time there arose a magnificent residence that could easily have put a palace to shame. One evening, shortly after the completion of her palatial new home, Anne paid a visit to some neighbors who lived about a mile away. Returning home after nightfall, accompanied only by a small dog, she came upon two surly beggars who gruffly demanded money. She felt no particular alarm and, reaching into her purse, gave them a few coins. Unfortunately, as she did so, they noticed the glitter of a ring she wore and in threatening tones ordered her to give it to them. Explaining that it was an heirloom she had received from her mother, she insisted that she could not part with it. To her horror, one of the thugs grabbed her by the arm and snarled, "Hand it over, lady, or we'll take it." When she began screaming for help, the other thug clubbed her into unconsciousness. But her cries had attracted help, and the two attackers were forced to flee without the ring. She was taken back to her friend's house for the night and sent home to Burton Agnes Hall the next day. Unfortunately, her injuries were more serious than they had seemed. Between fits of delirium and coma, she called her sisters to her bedside and said weakly, "Listen carefully. I shall never sleep peacefully in my grave unless I, or at least a part of me, rests in this beautiful home of ours as long as it stands." With tears streaming down their faces, they listened in horrified disbelief as the dying Anne insisted that after her death her head be removed and entombed forever within the walls of the mansion. "If not," she warned, "my spirit will return and make such a disturbance that no one will be able to stay here until my wishes are fulfilled." The sisters agreed to everything Anne demanded in order to calm her, but when she died, they buried her intact in the family vault. For 1 week all was quiet, but after that, as soon as darkness fell, it was as if the very gates of hell had opened and unleashed a torrent of demons. There were thunderous crashes, slamming doors, spine-chilling groans, and ominous, heavy footfalls. After weeks of nightly tumult, the two sisters consulted the vicar of the parish and also their closest friends. Recalling Anne's dying request, they all concluded that she was now making good her threat to make the house uninhabitable. Accordingly, the next day they opened her tomb to examine the body. To their horror and shock, they found that the head was detached from the body, and furthermore, had in this short space of time become a fleshless skull. Seeing this, the vicar suggested that the skull be returned to Burton Agnes Hall at once. It was placed in a small casket and reverently carried back, where it was placed on a table in the dead girl's room. From that day on, as long as the skull remained in the house, there was never another disturbance. Over the centuries, however, when occasional individuals accidentally or on purpose removed it, the hauntings resumed until the skull could be found and returned to its rightful resting place. Thank you.